Baxton's AP Environmental Science class, do we have a treat for you today. I would call it a multimedia extravaganza, teaching you all about the phosphorus cycle. Here, class, we have a beautiful example of a phosphorus atom. And here we have a completely to scale, majestic mountain. Now, phosphorus is present in what we call phosphate rocks, which tend to take the forms of mountains. Now, the first step in the phosphate cycle is when these mountains are weathered by environmental effects such as wind and water. This, in turn, causes the phosphate to run off of the mountains and dissolve into the soil. Here we see the phosphate dissolving into the soil. Here, class, we see a beautiful tree. Now, due to the phosphate now being present in the soil, the tree and plants have the ability to absorb this phosphate. It must be noted that animals will then eat said trees and plants, gaining this phosphate for themselves. Having now absorbed the phosphate by eating the plants, the animals now defecate and excrete the phosphate back into the soil. Beautiful. A second way that the phosphate goes from both producer and consumer organisms back into the soil is through the death of said organisms, which then results in decomposition. Having once again dissolved into the soil, the phosphate now slowly runs towards the water table in large bodies of water, such as the ocean, as we see exhibited here. Having entered the large bodies of water, the phosphate slowly precipitates out of its aquatic solution, building up as sediment, which over a large period of time eventually becomes phosphate rocks. Over millions of years, plate tectonics and other geological forces will slowly lift these phosphate rocks from the ocean floor to form beautiful, majestic, perfectly to scale and lifelike mountains. And thus we conclude the phosphate cycle. It must be noted that phosphate at no point takes the form of a gas during this long and beautiful natural process. Sadly, humans influence the phosphorus cycle in two major ways. The first is through fertilizers, which have large amounts of phosphate in them to aid in crop growth. The second way is using cleaning detergents, which contain sodium tripolyphosphate, which also adds a large amount of unnatural phosphorus to the cycle. Now, sadly, class, all of this unnaturally added phosphorus will slowly, like all phosphorus, run into the oceans and lakes of our beautiful Earth. Now, this causes something very unnatural called algae blooms, which is when, due to the excess phosphorus, algae just goes nuts, completely bonkers, and overgrows substantially. Now, as it dissolves and decomposes, it reduces the amount of dissolved available oxygen in the water, killing countless fish and aquatic life.
R.I.P. fish. Rest in peace.